Have you ever walked past someone and never thought twice about them? Maybe an old man sitting quietly on a park bench, or a woman sweeping the floor of a shop, or a stranger standing alone at a bus stop. We pass by people every single day without realizing that behind those tired eyes, behind those wrinkles, behind that silence, there may be a story so powerful it could change the way we see our own lives. This is the story of an old man no one noticed, until one day his secret was revealed. And that secret carried a lesson so deep it could change the way we measure what truly matters. The man everyone overlooked. In a small town in Virginia, there was an old man named Henry. He lived alone in a worn-out house at the edge of town. It's a kind of place with peeling paint, a sagging porch, and windows that hadn't been cleaned in years. Every morning, Henry would shuffle into town with his faded cap and his cane, sit at the same park bench, and watch people go by. The townspeople hardly noticed him. To them, Henry was just another lonely old man whose best years had long since passed. Children ran by him without a glance. Teenagers laughed near him without caring. And adults walked past him on their way to work, barely sparing him a polite nod. No one asked Henry how he was doing. No one wondered about his past. They assumed his life was simple, empty, unimportant. But what they didn't know was that Henry carried a secret one he had protected for decades. The young man who paid attention. One autumn afternoon, a young man named David sat down on the park bench beside Henry. David was in his early 20s, struggling with direction in life. He had just lost his job, felt like a failure, and wondered if his future was slipping away before it had even begun. Unlike most people, David actually noticed Henry. "Do you sit here every day?" David asked. Henry looked at him and smiled faintly. "Most days, yes. The world looks different when you take the time to sit and watch." David chuckled. "I guess I don't do much sitting and watching. I'm always chasing something, and lately, I'm not even sure what it is anymore." Henry studied him for a long moment before saying, "Maybe what you're chasing isn't what you're meant to find." That simple sentence caught David off guard. For reasons he couldn't explain, he felt drawn to this old man no one else seemed to notice. And so, over the next few weeks, David began sitting with Henry every afternoon. Sometimes they sat in silence. Sometimes they talked. Henry didn't say much about himself, but the little he did share carried wisdom that David had never heard from anyone else. The secret revealed. One chilly November day, David finally asked, "Henry, what did you do with your life? I mean, before now. Did you work? Did you travel? Did you have a family?" Henry's eyes softened, and for the first time, he spoke of his past. "I was a teacher," he said quietly. "Not the kind who makes headlines. Just a simple teacher at the local school. For 40 years, I taught history and literature to students who barely wanted to be there. Most people forgot me as soon as they left the classroom. Some days, I wondered if I was making any difference at all." David tilted his head. "And did you make a difference?" Henry looked away toward the horizon. "I wasn't sure. Not until the letters started coming." "Letters," Henry nodded. "Over the years, students I barely remembered began writing back to me. They told me that something I said, or something I did, had changed the way they saw themselves. One student told me he became the first in his family to graduate college because I told him not to give up. Another said she pursued writing because of a poem I once shared in class. There are dozens of letters all tucked away in a box in my house. That's my treasure." David sat in stunned silence. He realized then that the old man no one noticed had quietly shaped hundreds of lives. His secret wasn't wealth or fame or recognition. His secret was legacy, the turning point. Henry turned to David and said something that would stay with him forever. "People chase money, titles, and recognition. But when you're my age, you realize none of that is what lasts. What matters is the difference you make in other people's lives. That's the only thing that echoes after you're gone." David felt his throat tighten. Here he was, a young man worried about failure, worried about what people thought of him, worried that he hadn't built anything worth noticing. And yet, sitting next to him was a man no one paid attention to yet, who had touched countless lives in ways that mattered far more than status or wealth ever could. In that moment, David realized he had been measuring life by the wrong yardstick. Success wasn't about being noticed by everyone. It was about making a difference to someone. That was the turning point. Part 5. The ripple effect. Over the next year, David's life began to change. He still struggled at times, but Henry's words guided him. He stopped obsessing over quick success and started asking himself, who can I help today? Whose life can I make better in some small way? Eventually, David found work at a youth center, mentoring kids who reminded him of himself when he was younger, lost, unsure, searching. And every time he encouraged them, he thought of Henry. Months later, David stopped by Henry's house, only to find it empty. The old man had passed away quietly in his sleep. The town barely noticed. There was no grand funeral, no headlines, no speeches. Just a few neighbors, a pastor, and David. But after the service, the pastor gave David a small wooden box that Henry had left behind for him. Inside was a stack of letters, those very letters Henry had spoken of. Dozens of voices, each one testifying to the impact of a teacher no one remembered, an old man no one noticed, but whose quiet legacy had changed lives forever. David held those letters to his chest and whispered, "You mattered, Henry. You mattered more than you'll ever know." The reflection. Now, my friend, I want you to pause and let this story sink in. Because this is not just about Henry. This is about all of us. How often do we pass by people without truly seeing them? How often do we measure our worth by how noticed we are, instead of by the difference we make? Henry's secret wasn't fame or wealth. His secret was that he had poured his life into others, quietly, faithfully, without needing recognition. And in the end, that was what made his life truly great. And David's turning point, his realization, shows us something we all need to remember. We, have to change the whole world to live a meaningful life. We just have to change one person's world. So ask yourself, who in your life needs your encouragement? Who needs your kindness? Who needs you to believe in them when they can't believe in themselves? Don't wait to be noticed. Don't wait to be famous. Don't wait for recognition, because the greatest legacies are often built in silence. In the small moments, in the lives we touch without even realizing it. The old man, no one noticed, held a big secret, that the quiet life of serving others is not small at all. It is everything. And perhaps, one day, when you're old and sitting on a park bench, it won't be the money in your bank account or the title on your business card that defines your life. It will be the stories people tell about how you touched their lives, how you made them feel, how you helped them believe in themselves. That is the secret Henry carried, and now it's yours too. So live in such a way that one day someone will hold your memory close to their heart and say, "You mattered. You made a difference. You changed my life."